China's solar industry exports have been suffering unfair treatment from the United States since 2009. Now, with the Inflation Reduction Act passed last year, there are more pressures on Chinese players. But will the US achieve its goal to become the world's clean tech superpower through such restrictive measures and unfair competition? How are Chinese companies coping with these challenges?
因为我们从这个09年左右吧开始，其实就各种这种贸易壁垒啊，就层出不穷啊，像反倾销、反补贴、201、301啊，反这个强迫劳动啊，就等等啊，包括这2年也说的反规避啊，所以呢，我们这个行业应该说这10多年已经习惯了啊，所以那我们为了满足这种贸易壁垒相对比较多的市场啊，那我们呢是。采用的是主要是海外产能。我们像我们的这个在东南亚的这些工厂，来供应像美国这样的市场啊，从而呢，这个把这些贸易壁垒可以很好的去避开啊。
这个现在可以有效完全规避吗？
目前是完全可以规避的。
完全可以规避啊。那这个对你们自己的成本的上涨有多大？
成本肯定比在国内做是要偏高一些的。
对。
啊，但是呢，东南亚的，我们因为选的工厂呢，选的厂址啊，整个还是比较好的啊，它能利用整个中国的这个一些我们的人员呐，一些技术管理啊，可以很方便的支持到我们的这些工厂。
你们出海有没有碰到过水土不服的问题？
我们前面的1、2年肯定是遇到的。啊，这个人员到那里跟当地的这种风土人情，啊，跟这个当地的法律法规，啊，还有这个方方面面吧，啊，包括这种管理上的这种要有不同的风格，啊，还是需要适应一小段时间的，啊，但是呢，我们随着我们的管理人员、技术人员的本地化，啊，我们也是快速的实现本地化，那这样的一种局面下呢，还是可以很快的适应的。
Yang Aiqing did not seem worried when asked about this. However, according to statistics from the US Customs and Border Protection, following the implementation of anti-evasion orders, a total of 734 shipments of goods worth approximately $246 million or 1.64 billion yuan have been detained by the US. From June to the end of October 2022, the US Customs has detained 1,000 shipments of PV products from China, which caused huge losses for Chinese companies such as Longji and Tianhe, while upstream silicon producers are also facing export restrictions to the US.
Right. It is a really difficult market in US since 2021 because there's lots of sanctions or geopolitical tensions on the solar sector. The first thing is the import tariff. But since June last year, President Biden found that there's a significant supply shortage after this tariff is imposed to Southeast Asian capacities. So they lifted this ban. They waived this import tariff by 2 years. But after June 2024, there's still a risk of imposing further tariffs when they ship to US. This is one of the risks from shipping to US. The other one, or most important risk from shipping to US, is that the Chinese solar module companies are required to submit a list of documents to prove the sources of all their raw materials. If these raw materials are sourced from Xinjiang, the US Customs may not be able to let them go into US. This is a harsher requirement because some of the solar companies, although they do not source from Xinjiang, they cannot provide such certifications or documents to prove the legitimacy of their raw materials. The third risk of shipping to US is the so-called IRA Act, the Inflation Reduction Act in US. There's a similar one in Europe, which the key target is to protect local manufacturing. So these are all the disadvantages in US, which I think it takes time for companies to get prepared of. So to simply answer your question, I think near-term impact could be limited from the threat in US and Europe, but long-term, I think it will be kind of a risk to China's solar supply chain.
The Inflation Reduction Act will boost renewable investments to nearly $114 billion a year by 2031. And according to Climate Power and Advocacy Group, since the passage of the act last year, $90 billion of capital has already been committed to new projects. There are complaints about protectionism, and French President Emmanuel Macron said publicly that the act could fragment the West, while European Commission's President Ursula von der Leyen warned that it could bring unfair competition and close markets. While the US is trying to block China PV exports, players in China are building their competitiveness. Alongside with technology upgrades, vertically integrating their business model becomes a trend.
Because since 2020, the sector has witnessed a supply tightness and price surge of polysilicon, solar glass, and silicon metals, and all the other raw materials are seeing a price surge. So who secures the supply will definitely benefit in the past 2 years. They could not only benefit from a stable supply and prevent any potential supply shortage, they could also benefit from milder cost increase. Also, any profit decline in the downstream segment could be offset by the profit expansion in the upstream segment, leading to a relatively stable margins. But however, since this year, things might change. Polysilicon price dropped from the peak of 300 to only 150 to 200, and wafer margin will be squeezed due to the oversupply issue. So pure module companies could actually benefit as comparing with vertically integrated module makers. And pure plays, they don't have poly and wafer and don't have to suffer from the profit decline. So they could possibly see stronger earnings growth this year instead. So in my view, there's no simple answer for whether vertical integration is a better business model than non-vertical integration. During technological upgrade cycle, non-vertical integrated companies or so-called specialized companies could have better advantages as they could be more focused on technology development in a specific segment.
But if everyone can do the same thing, what would be the unique competitive advantages?
我们是这样，我们一体化呢也不是说完全1比1的，我们您比如说我们中间的环节可能比我下游的环节它产能要稍微小一些，比如做到一个80%的匹配，那我还是有20%的是需要外采的，那这样呢我有外部的有我内部的形成一种对比，然后促进我们内部也要去进步。
一体化之后，你们整体的毛利是会有提升吗？比原来比如说只做其中的一个环节，还是总体的利润贡献率会更好一些？总体会好一些，是会好一些。当然我们重要的还是看保交付，因为客户下了订单，交付能力、质量的这个可靠性就更加的关键。
我们也曾经走过一体化，但是呢，一体化的好处，因为它整个从上游、中游、下游，对吧？比方说硅料、电池、组件、渠道打通，它完全3个环节控制成本，这它好处。但是它的坏处是什么呢？我们下游客户怎么忠诚于你？你有这个做下游，你有做上游，那你是我的供应商，我怎么依赖你啊？
对，是
在日本。在任何一个国家，他的供应商，他一辈子就这样一件事，你干这件事，专业化分工，你干这个我就不干了，对吧？你对我负责，我们一起，战略是一致的，价值观是一致的。我们下游的客户干到什么时间，路线图怎么走，上游的材料你怎么降价，你怎么做好，你也不断的革命支持我，这是一个一起的。但我们呢，国内呢，就很难做到这一点。一看这个事情不行，咔下去；一看这个好了，马上调整。对，是吧？对。目前呢，我们现在还是要这个专注于把硅料我们说的几个在材料里面当中， 我们支持保持现在的以科技为这个引领。
Protectionism cannot curb the continued improvements of Chinese solar players and their technology advantages. In our next episode, we'll bring you the latest on next-generation solar battery technology and how energy storage is planned among those leading PV companies in China. Only on GreenFront, only on CGTN.